But what I found, regardless of how you were doing it, was all fathers have one major role.
Let's talk about the first 1,000 days. So you really believe that the first 1,000 days of a child's life are the most critical. And linked to this is the role of both the mother and the father. It's long been assumed that the father is surplus to requirements, that they're not really that important. As long as they're, in the stereotypical context, as long as they're providing for the family, they don't really need to be around. What do we need to know about how formative those first 1,000 days are for a child?
First of all, no, it's not true. It's absolutely fundamental, I think, for a child to get some input from a father. I'm going to define father. In the West, we're a bit obsessed with the term biological father, and we always describe that as the real father, even if he's not around, even if that child has been brought up by a stepfather, an adoptive father, what we call a social father, which is a grandfather, an uncle, a best friend, an older brother. When I say father, people assume I mean biological father. I don't. I mean the man or men who have stepped in and done the job. That is the father. I want to make that very clear, first of all. We know that young people who grow up without that input, the risks of having negative outcomes is much higher without having a male role model or some male role models in your life. We know that they are much more likely to display antisocial behaviour. They are much more likely to turn to crime. They are much more likely to have addiction issues. They're much more likely to have mental health issues. And their outcomes in terms of relationships going through their life in other aspects of their lives are much more negative. And there is a reason for that. So men have a very specific role in child development. And I wasn't expecting to find this when I first started, but I've looked at fathering around the world in many different cultures, and how men arrive at that role is very different. But what I found, regardless of how you were doing it, was all fathers have one major role. And it's a bit of a technical term, and I'll explain what it is. They scaffold the child's entry into the world beyond the family. And what that means is they are the parent when it comes to developing the skills, the neural connections, the biology, the physiology that enables you to leave your family and go out into the world and be successful, to thrive and survive.